Thanks, guys. Well, welcome. This is a better letter. This is coming out of experience in the field of journalism, being a sports writer and a magazine editor, and then ending up in youth work at age 30. And so I've got this experience that I thought I could share. Maybe, as my disclaimers say here, maybe some of this stuff works for you. Maybe you're 98% of the way there and you just pick up one or two tips today. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping you take away maybe one big concept, maybe 5 little things. And if you come here today in a lost place, having no idea where to go with these letters, unfortunately, I can't really reshape your writing in 30 minutes. But like I said, hopefully I can give you a couple concepts to get you going and to be able to share the work justifiably to the quality of work that we do. We do really special, good work, and our partners need to know, and I truly believe that. Who is this guy? Well, hi, I'm Andrew Chong. I am married to this woman in the photo named Jennifer. I've been known to be ethnically confusing. My mother's actually a blonde woman, so I'm half Chinese on my dad's side and half Ukrainian on my mother's side. And I've been full-time with YFC Youth Unlimited in North Vancouver since 2013, and I'm currently the area director. I hold the esteem and the record for being the fastest fundraiser on our Vancouver team, I believe in 30 years. Eric Enns claims he did it faster than me when he first started. We have to keep inflation in mind. So, there's these things to think about and a few things to judge me about. I've never had a cup of coffee. I watch and really enjoy WWE wrestling, like, fake wrestling. I call it simulated combat. And I'm known in our area for bringing a blow dryer on our trip to Rwanda. So that's a bit about me that you can judge me on. My background as a hockey writer. This is me and below average Canucks defenseman Jason Garrison down in the press room at Rogers Arena in Vancouver after a Canucks game. My background as a hockey writer was about a few things that I think really translate to what we're doing with our partner letters. Lots of info in the least possible amount of words. Any questions a reader or one of our partners would have, let's answer them. Start with the most important stuff. So if they only read your first paragraph, they've still got it. Write in order of importance. It's like telling a story at the bar. You would not bury the lead if you said, oh, you just saw a huge car accident and your friend at the bar said, well, what happened? You would not wait 3, 5, 7 paragraphs in to tell them 2 people died. You would start with the biggest news and you would go from there. So for us, that's starting with the transformation story and going from there. And lastly, we write visually. You write in a way where the reader can imagine being there. They can step into your shoes. They can step into that coffee shop or into those halls. And they can take on those feelings that you have when you're doing this youth work. They can imagine the transformation. They can see the transformation in their brain. And it makes our writing that much more powerful and effective. In my background as a magazine editor, there are a few things that I think really translate to us in this work too, which is we got about 3 or 5 seconds to grab people's attention. People get this huge stack of mail. We're one of many pieces of mail that they're ready to discard in a second. If we've earned the right for them to even open our envelope, let's grab them in the first 3 seconds. Let's have a stunning photo. Let's have a headline that draws in. Let's have a first sentence that really captures what we're doing, that affects people, that engages them. I think something that's underplayed is that our layout, the way we lay that page out, is very important for that first impact, those first few seconds. Sometimes the layout's even more important than the words. If you're lucky enough to have a few good photos, or if you can try, play them up. If it's a great HD photo, play it big, play it proud. And finally, if you have no lead, you have no story, meaning if there's no purpose to this letter, if you're just kind of musing about your day or how much you love this job, let's not do the letter. Let's find a lead. We do such good transformative work. Things are always happening. New programs are being started. Youth's lives are being changed. We're breaking into schools and communities. Have a lead, have a clear understanding of what we want to share, and share that. Hope the audio is working okay, guys. Can you verify, Naomi? Testing, testing. Do we have
Sorry.
audio, guys?
Yes, we have audio. Sorry, I was muted.
No
We're
worries.
good. We can
Thanks,
hear you.
guys. So Ryan asks, what do you mean by having a lead? A lead in the newsroom is the main thing that happened in the story. For instance, if there is a car crash, the lead is there was a car crash and 2 people died. So if we don't have something that happened, we don't have a story in the newsroom. Either something happened or it didn't. Hope that makes sense. So I think for youth workers, either something happened, like look at the transformation and progress of this youth. Look at this new program that we've funded and launched. Look at this new school we've broken into. Look at this new grant we've received. Look at this new staff we've hired. That's the lead. Hope that makes sense, Ryan. This is a little chat between me and my mother back in August 2013 when I first started with Youth Unlimited. I said, Mom, I got a job with Youth Unlimited. Mom said, what? I don't know what that is. What is that? I said, haven't you been getting Youth Unlimited staff Riley's letters for like 4, 5, 6 years? She said, oh, is that Youth Unlimited? I said, yes. She said, I read those letters from time to time, but they're so long and I have no idea what she even does. And she's always asking for money for some reason. I said, we've got a problem here. And ever since that day, I've been thinking about how we can make this not happen. Maybe if you could hop in the chat window for a second and give me 1 minute of your feedback and finish this sentence. For me, writing partner letters is, and I'll give you a sec to write that. Painful, says Joshua. Yes, I've heard this feedback a lot. It is painful. Naomi is saying tough. Linda saying a joy. I agree. It's a joy sometimes too. It can be exciting, as Susie says. A pleasure. I rarely have time to do. Maybe we can give you some tips today to make that really efficient use of your time. Thank you for that. Earlier up, Daryl asked, just wondering, does the lead need to be a positive story? I think absolutely not. I think we live in the real world. I think one of the beautiful things that we do is that we walk alongside youth no matter what. And so I think ingrained in the work is a sense that we're doing good work, even if the youth story is depressing or is getting worse or is saddening. So I think some of my partners have told me, I don't need a happy story, just update me. I understand the work is difficult and treacherous and long-term, and you could go years with someone declining, but ingrained in that is a sense that Youth Unlimited is still with them, still pursuing them, even if that youth ignores us or doesn't get any better. So what's the point? I've spent some time thinking about what's the point. And maybe it's different across the country. Maybe there's some similarities across the country. For me, the big thing is we engage our partners to do stuff. So this is a letter that prompts action, giving money, understanding the work, and then becoming volunteers because they're excited by the work, advocating to us, to their friends or to their coworkers or their schools or in the community. And it's a call for people to pray. And I believe that prayer is powerful. We also want to move our partners emotionally. I had a meeting with a new partner last week who, long story short, came into a lot of family inheritance money. And he believes some should go to Youth Unlimited. And he says, I don't want to be an anonymous rich guy in the corner. I want to know this work affect me. I want to know these kids' stories. I want to feel their stories. I want to pray for them. If they come to church in a few years, I want to meet them and shake their hand and welcome them to church. If there's a chance for me to volunteer, I want to be there. If you have updates happening, if you have needs on the fly, I want to know. I want to be affected by this work. And finally, I think a huge thing is to remind our partners that they are the star. Without our partners, the work doesn't happen. And that can either be sort of a cliche that we spout out, or this can be a way that we live in our jobs, which is realizing every second of every day that we are here because our partners propel us to be here. They are the ones who give and volunteer and advocate and pray. And a letter is a great place to remind them that's who you are to us. Here's some language I've used to remind our partners that they are the star. I've said, there's no other way to break it down. God is using you as a key player in this girl's story of restoration. Thank you for standing with us. You are at the heart of this day-to-day, long-term transformation work. I can't help but reflect on the impact you are making on an 18-year-old North Shore kid like Trav. It's astounding. And thank you for being generous to a young person like Jaden, for being empowering to our team, and for being faithful to God's good work. These are a few examples of ways that I've integrated making our partner the star right into my letter. Maybe we could hop back in the chat for 1 second and you could chat or comment to fill in this blank. One of my partners is a star because, maybe it's because they give disproportionately beyond their means. Maybe they give so much time. Maybe they bake 50 cookies a week for your youth program. Maybe they drive. Maybe they have been with you for 5, 10, 15 years of partnership. Tell me why your partners are a star. They give sacrificially. They pray and give in faith. People they won't even meet. They're faithful for the long term. You're right. I'll give you another 10 seconds here if you wanted to chime in. It's a little bit speedy, but thank you for answering speedily. They see the significance of admin roles, absolutely. They remind me of my purpose when I'm tired and discouraged. What a team we have. I was so proud to tell the North Shore C4, which is a collective of all the agency leaders in North Vancouver. I was so proud to tell them many of our staff, on average, will stay 10 years. Where we know in the rest of the community work in our city, staff are burning out 1 and 2 years in. And I think our partners are a big reason why we are so boosted, why our trajectory is long-term, why we stay self-cared. You support me emotionally and spiritually. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for those answers. Let's just keep flying here. This is a book I didn't read, but I stole some stuff. It's called The Life You Can Save, Peter Singer. People give more when these 6 things happen. People give more when these 6 things happen. Number 1, when they can save one person rather than many. So rather than saying, you know, we have 30 youth coming to our soccer program and we reach hundreds of youth per year through our drop-in, maybe tell the story of one youth. Maybe tell the story about little grade 10 Brian, who you met at the alternative school, who has stuck with you for the past full school year and who you've seen incredible transformation is. Paint the picture of Brian. Use the word count you have, the precious few words you have, to talk about one rather than many. Number 2, people want to know that others are giving. So as much as you can create a sense of team, go for it. Us, we, our team. People want to know that they're not the only sort of stray auntie sympathizing with our pathetic ministry and she feels guilt tripped to give to us. People want to know that this is a ship and there are many people aboard and this ship is going somewhere with a whole bunch of people on it. Number 3, when people are engaged beyond just the money. This is like my partner who I mentioned from last week. He says, I don't want to just give anonymously and hide in the background. He says, I want to be affected. I want to be engaged. I want to know what's going on. I want to pray for these kids. I want to meet these kids if there's ever a chance to meet them. I want to volunteer. I want you to ask me for special gifts. I mean, I wish all partners could be like this, but I think in general, this is true. People want to be engaged beyond the money. Number 4, people want to feel responsibility. You know, these are our community youth. These aren't my community youth. These are our community youth. And maybe you work as a lawyer and you have means to give money. And maybe I'm gifted in youth work and I have means to go out in the schools and talk to youth. Number 5, people want to see specific impact rather than mass. This is kind of like number 1. Like, talk about one specific transformation story, for example, in your letter, rather than saying we have 30 programs and 80 kids and spouting out huge numbers all the time. Talk about the impact you made on one person or through one program or through one situation. And number 6, people want to see, feel, and touch the story. So we can work on ways to do that in the letter. Through this letter, I believe we can help So many of our partners see, feel, and touch the beautiful work we do. I know we are passionate. I know we are fired up. What if we could share that in our letter? Let's try to do that. So one of the ways we do that is by writing for the senses. So we all have senses. Let's write for them. This book, Brand Sense, it says when brands appeal to 3 or more of our senses, and therefore different parts of our brain, brand impact and engagement increases by 70%. When appealing to 3 or more senses, engagement increases by 70%. So let's try to do that. So how do we write visually? Here's a few examples. A thoughtful, soft-spoken introvert wearing his usual baggy hoodie and jeans and sporting the unintentional bedhead hairstyle. Sitting at a high table at Beans on Lonsdale, his hand pensively pinching his chin, looking off into the distance. Try to imagine these scenarios. Put yourself in the shoes of the reader. A shy, kind grade 11 girl dressed in all black, except for the colorful Converse shoes, who smiles only with her mouth because she doesn't like her teeth. Now you try. I mean, it's kind of awkward in a chat. Usually I'll be speaking with you, but try to visually describe a youth you know. These are the kind of words you can use in maybe your next letter. And I think if people can picture our youth, they can imagine being deeper in the story. They're more engaged, they're more affected. So maybe take 1 minute and try to visually describe a youth in the chat window. Let's see what we can come up with here. So what is their facial expression? What is their demeanor? What's their fashion? How do they walk? How do they speak? How do they mumble or laugh? Let's take a minute to do that. If you're feeling this is going very fast, we can also have you come back to the presentation after the meeting today and sort of read some of my examples and maybe get some inspiration from that. Yeah, don't be shy. Thanks, Daryl. I mean, it takes a second. I think it might take more than a minute, so I'm kind of putting the pressure on. Oh, Tiani, thank you. A shy, introverted girl with a superhero t-shirt who smiles at the funny things people say without ever looking up and making any eye contact. I love it. I can totally picture that. She smiles.
We lost audio again there, so I'm going to just read here. She smiles with her eyes. She might be small in stature, but exudes energy with every word. Are you back?
Am I back? Yes, I think I'm back.
All right, I hear you now. Perfect. Over to you.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you for those examples, especially the half Ukrainian one. That's very accurate, Sam. Thank you. Attention span. So this is what we're working against with our partners. This is just the reality of sending mail or sending emails or posting on social media. We don't have a lot of time to grab people. Microsoft Corp did a study in the year 2000 that said the average human attention span, 12 seconds. These days, it's only 8 seconds. The average attention span of a goldfish, 9 seconds. So it's tough out there. We have less time than a goldfish in terms of attention span. We have 8 seconds. So we got to be quick. We have to tailor our letters to grab people. So we want to start our letters with a bang. I think one of the reasons I was inspired to do this webinar in the first place was because I was seeing letters that were starting with a whimper. It was such a weak opening, I couldn't bear to read on. And I'm sorry if this insults anyone. This is just how I felt. I was imagining myself as a reader, reading this top left block of text here that starts with the sun. And I would see letters that went something like this at the very start. The sun was shining, the air was crisp, and God's presence felt closer to me than ever before. I knew he had something in store and that this wouldn't be just another winter day of doing the job I love. I really didn't want to keep reading. These are, as I'm listed below, or as I'm listing below this block of text, these are vague musings. I actually don't care. I'm sorry, I don't care. This is very self-focused. It is not partner-focused. And it buries the lead. It buries the purpose. What are we even writing about here? Why are you telling me about the weather and how much you love your job? I don't care. Talk to me. So on the right, I've given an example of what I think starts more with a bang. In the top right block of text says, your partnership means a shy student can push through the anxiety of showing up for school because they know their mentors from Youth Unlimited will be there hosting the after-school music program. This is about one youth's transformation. This makes the partner the star. And the first two words, your partnership. And even if they don't read any more of my letter, they get the point. This is something I think we can do later on. I can assign you some homework. So maybe after the webinar or some other time this week, think of a youth with a transformation story. Using my example maybe as inspiration, write the opening line of your next letter. Keep it concise. Be able to read it aloud in 8 seconds or less. Focus on one youth. Make your partner the star. Maybe start with your partnership means this youth can. And make your point right off the bat. So even if they don't read anymore, even if they have 20 pieces of mail and their dinner's in the oven and they got to go to soccer practice, they're going to read that first line and they're going to understand your work. I love what Mark Coop adds here. The human brain. I know Mark's a curious guy. He loves science. The human brain is always looking to conserve calories. If it doesn't understand what is being communicated, it moves quickly to calorie conservation, also known as daydreaming. I love it. I'm going to add that to my slide. Daryl chimes in there. Easy, Daryl. So a few thoughts on word count. This is stolen from a blog called The Leaky Bathtub. There isn't one ideal length in Cornelia's opinion. It simply needs to be long enough to do its job well. So write your letter long enough to do its job well. How do you do this? Outline the article. That helps with the structure and that keeps things moving along. Break up the article with little subheadings like you see in a magazine or in the newspaper or even in a web article that's very long. Sometimes has subheadings. And edit the article so that all the weak stuff is gone. Be ruthless with yourself. Get rid of it. Shorter, almost always better. And the great Andrew Chong, this is me, said, just keep it under 500 words because TLDR is real. TLDR is internet slang for too long, didn't read. We all know this is real. So I say keep it under 500 words. Even a really strong 350 words, that'll get you somewhere. What do we say when we're asking for money? I think the key that I keep hearing again and again from fundraising gurus, people who work full time in this industry for raising funds, people who've been around, they say just be honest, just ask for the money. Be short, talk how you normally talk. Of course, have an overall tone of thankfulness. Remember that we are partners and just confidently go for it. Ask for the money. Here's one way I ask for money. If you wanted to steal some of this after the webinar and insert basically this into your next letter, feel free to take it. If you already know what you're saying, do that. But feel free to steal any of this. This is what I like to say. Something like this. Thank you for your part in this work. As we walk along these alongside these youth together. I'm looking to raise another $550 a month to reach my goal. Gifts of $25, $50, and $100 a month are the most common gifts, and that steady stream of monthly giving keeps me going for the long haul. So sign up on youthunlimited.com. It takes about 90 seconds. Just type my name. I've noticed people responding well to that. We're flying here. Layout. A few things on layout. Layout is, I think, very important in grabbing people's attention so that these don't end up in the garbage right away. So my list of bullet points on the right, here's a few concepts. Pulling the eye from top to bottom. So here's a really standard layout. I think if you look at this layout, your eye is going to go to this big, colorful half-page photo first. So I'm pulling your eye in intentionally to the photo. From there, I'm putting the headline just below that. So hopefully, if you're pulled in by my photo, my headline will pull you in next. If it's a good headline with some intrigue, it's going to pull you into that first block of text. And if that first block of text is visual and engaging, you're going to have to read the story. You're going to have no choice. You're going to be begging to know what happens next. At least this is the goal. So think of where the reader's eye goes. I think these are good examples of a simple layout that pulls the reader's eye in the right order. They're not confused where to look. There's not 10 photos of different sizes all over the place. There's not different blocks of text clunkily laid out. The eye goes to the photo, the headline, the big text, the small text. And yes, Daryl, you may steal that ask. Careful with fonts and text colors. Sometimes I see many fonts and many text colors. Let's keep it to maybe 2 fonts would be good at the most. The best font color is typically small black text on a white background. It's been that way forever. So keep black body text on a white background and keep your fonts in families, like I was saying. So maybe pick one family of fonts, and if you want to alter it, alter the size, bold, italic, but don't use more than 2 fonts typically. I have a little arrow here pointing to a really efficient small footer. My footer, it's very small, but I'll just read it to you what it says. All it says is giving, youthunlimited.com. E, Andrew at youthunlimited.com. C, 604-307-8693. Some chapters require that the address be there. If you need to add that as well. I think most chapters require the logo to be on there. So when adding the Youth Unlimited logo, just be subtle about it. I have mine in the top right corner of the photo. I think it blends in nicely. It's not like, boom, Youth Unlimited and looking kind of gaudy. Remember that we're folding these letters, so try to keep faces out of the fold. For instance, this photo on the left, it would be a shame to fold over those, at least the 3 beautiful faces in mine. So be aware of the fold. And remember that ink bleeds through, especially on thinner stock paper. So in this instance, I've done a 2-sided single page letter, and I've kept the photos in the same position so that if they bleed a little bit, they'll bleed into each other as opposed to bleeding onto a pure white background. And there's some good questions coming in. Keep them coming. Okay, more layout basics. I mean, if you have the treat of having high-res photos, of course use those. I would say if it's grainy, do not use it. I would rather go with all text than have a grainy photo. I think it looks unprofessional. I think it sticks out like a sore thumb. So either use a good photo, it doesn't have to be professional, but a good, clear, crisp photo, or don't. Be thoughtful about how you crop photos. Excuse me, just had a little cough there. In this photo crop, we don't need the legs, we don't need the sides, we don't need above our heads. So thoughtfully crop in tight. You get our torsos and our smiling faces. Dime-sized faces is a good rule to use when using photos with faces. If you put a dime on the page, the photo should be at least that big for the reader to be able to register that face. Always, always, always caption your photo. It is cruel and unusual punishment to leave someone with a photo and no explanation of what it is. Try to use a verb in the headline, so an action word. In this case, a new era begins. Something is beginning. Something is happening. Use a subheader that draws people into the story. So in this case, my subheader just below the blue headline, it says, from 1 staff to 5 in 8 months, and now we get to impact even more kids. So hopefully you want to read out or read about how that's happening. Oh, that's a cool change. How is this happening? What does that look like? Have a byline. Don't be shy. Say who wrote the story. By Andrew Chong. Some people will think the office is writing it. Some people think it's your whole area sending the same letter maybe. Let's just avoid all confusion and say you wrote it. One thing I see a lot is really wide columns for reading. Have nice narrow body text columns. This is a real treat for the reader. So when they read across a line, they don't have to bounce back left so far. You'll see many magazines and newspapers laid out with narrow columns. It makes reading very easy. It's tough to go from the far left side of the page to the far right side of the page and then all the way back to the far left. Just little things that make the reader's experience more pleasurable. And I would recommend left justified throughout. I wouldn't indent at the start of each paragraph. I think, as you can see, those nice clean lines down the left side of each column, left justified, no indent, I think looks the most beautiful, if I do say so myself. And of course, I keep saying pictures. If you're lucky enough to have pictures, or if you can pursue that, they tell stories in and of themselves. The best pictures are the ones with peak action. So in the very middle of something, like this photo in the top right, in the middle of leading worship, peak action, it tells a story. Scene setters, like in this bottom photo, this is our mobile youth drop-in. This is so much easier than me explaining what that scene looked like. This is a group of youth at the park gathered around our little RV. The sun is setting, North Shore Mountains, it's all very beautiful. Emotions, like in this middle photo where I'm laughing with the youth. Hey, it looks like you have good laughs with the youth. Good for you guys. Sounds like a great ministry. Have faces as much as you can. Of course, you need permission and proper consent forms for those. And any unique perspectives you can bring people into your ministry. The caption is simple to write. You want to answer who, what, where, why, and when. And people will be happy to know that they understand this photo. I included this because I think you could pull maybe one of these little blocks out and steal it for your letter. These are some sidebar ideas. So I particularly like the one on the far left, stuff kids say. I have a little list of quotes from kids. The quirky things, the awful things, the fun things, the inspiring things that they say. You could maybe record it in your phone or in a notepad. And then when you get to your letter writing every month or 2 months, you could have a little list of fun quotes to share, just to let the reader into what it's like to chat with these youth or to listen to them talk. I also really like this one, which I think is pretty common, where it says in the middle, your impact by the numbers, and then these big blue numbers. I've got some good feedback on those from some of my partners that they love the quick snapshot of statistics. They're not buried inside of a story. They're big and bold and obvious and things that people can remember. And I also like these little fundraising charts. I don't use them all the time, but this little chart in the middle, which makes it dead obvious, that little red pizza pie. Hey guys, I need 12%. Let's go here. So those are a few ways you can add little sidebars to your main story. I would say one sidebar with one main story maximum. This is something maybe you could write down 1 or 2 that jump out to you. These are 10 little things to consider or think about. Number 1, use a design program. Stay away from Word, very difficult to design in, very clunky, as many of us have been in Microsoft Word hell before, I'm sure. Lucid Press, is $10 a month, and you can cancel it for the next month. So if you write a letter every 2 months, for example, pay the $10, use LucidPress that month. Or if you want a permanent program, InDesign is the industry standard. And that's one of the Adobe products. You can sign up for a subscription online. If you make a good template once, if it takes you hours or someone designs it for you and gives you this beautiful gift of a great template, reuse that, keep that, use it again and again. It's even nice to give your partners a consistent looking letter. Welcome feedback from your partners. If you see them and you know they got your letter last week, ask them what they thought of it and tell them to be honest about it. Number 4, I always see this happen, and it's so simple to fix. We date our letters for the current month. So for example, if I'm sending a letter today, April 25th, and I'm calling it my April partner letter, it's going to be out of date in a week. So let's call it my May partner letter. So let's date it for the future so it stays relevant longer. Number 5, I would say use one good photo rather than multiple mediocre ones. I see this all the time. I see a good photo in the mix of mediocre photos, and I think to myself, oh, just use that one and play it up big. Conversational. So the way you talk, I think in our case, the way you talk is the way our partners expect us to talk. They don't expect you to become super formal and overly professional in the way you talk. So talk the way you talk when you tell your stories. Number 7, as someone mentioned earlier, does this have to be a happy ending story? It definitely does not, because this is not the work we are in, and this is not honest. Sometimes there are happy things, success stories, new life in Jesus, new life in community, but many times this is about an ongoing journey. So don't be ashamed to write about the ongoing nature of the journey. Number 8, I like to have your face on every letter if I could. I think when people get a letter from you, they subconsciously expect to see you on it. And I think it makes that storytelling that much more crystal clear. It's a letter from you. Oh, there's your face. This is about you. Number 9, ask God, ask mentors, ask coworkers how to approach your non-Christian readers. I'm not sure what your ratio would be of Jesus-loving church friends versus people who have no idea what we're talking about when we mention Jesus Christ's redemption power. So I would say ask around, ask for advice, ask God how to handle that. Do you have 2 letters? Do you write one letter in a sensitive way? I think it's different for each person. And number 10, if you can make it a lifestyle to record little quotes that youth say, to snap photos at opportune times, you're going to sit down to write your next letter and have a lot more content to work with. And if you're lucky enough to have a friend with some slick skills, please exploit them. Use them. Use and abuse. Get a friend to edit your article. I've seen that happen with great success, especially with some a staff that I supervised who really struggled with clear written English. They had a friend edit for them, and it was a wonderful gift. If you have a friend who does a bit of design work, man, it would be awesome to have them create a template for you that you love, that you're proud of, and you can use it again and again and just fill in the text. If you have someone that takes professional photos, ask them to come to your next event. Ask them to do, hey, what about a few professional headshots of you in different backgrounds, maybe in 1 or 2 different outfits, so that you have an archive of you to put in your future letters. And if you know a professional printer, that's kind of fun too, because A, it could be saving on the expense, but B, you can use cool techniques like bleed, which is when, like in a magazine, when you see the photo go all the way to the edge of the paper, instead of having that white border that most of our printers are restricted to, and you can do really great designs with that. So 12:42, we're almost there. I'm going to plow forward. I'm going to hope you have one takeaway. I just wanted to touch a little bit in the next 5 minutes on digital. So I think everyone's different in this area. Some people use MailChimp, some people love Instagram, some even use Snapchat, some have a website. I think for me, my complement to a hard copy print letter, which I send every 2 months, is a private, so a closed Facebook group that only my partners are in. So people who volunteer, people who give, people who pray, they're included in my partners group on Facebook. And once or twice a week, I'll do an update post. I love this as a compliment to my hard letters because I get more people seeing this more often than my letters. It's immediate and instant. I can finish a program, go out of my car, and boom, there's an update for my partners. People always know what's up. When I see people in the coffee shop, they ask me, hey, how's the funding going for your RV program? They'll know that I just posted that a day ago. This is a free service. I can produce content on the fly while I'm walking, while I'm in the school. It's interactive. People can comment and say, yes, I'll pray, or that's so cool that you did this, or ask me a question about the ministry. And some people just hate mail and email, and they're over it. They have too much of it. They're done with it. They don't want it. Here's a few examples of posts I've done. This is a story about a youth we've known for 4 years, and she came and she was featured at one of our big fundraising banquets. And I'm able to say, hey, here's me and Caddy at this fundraising banquet. It's been 4 years. What a journey. Or there's a story like being at the coffee shop the day after I got back from vacation, and 3 youth show up. And this is what our life is like sometimes. Youth just show up. The boy on the left started sleeping. The girl in the middle started criticizing my Instagram and saying I had bad filters. And the boy on the right is zooming in on my face, taking super close-up Snapchat photos. It's just, this is what life is like for us. It's kind of random and spontaneous. Things happen. And Facebook is a great way to share that. And I think it endears people to our work and into our youth. You can be dead simple. Bit of good news, got a grant, $7 grand. Huzzah! This is actually the most liked post I've ever done in my sort of 3 years doing this Facebook group. You can ask for prayer, absolutely. I think people are hungry to be engaged with the work. They want to know, how can I pray for you today? And we can tell them. You can ask for other things beyond prayer. You can ask for money. You can ask for volunteers. You can ask for guests. This is what I did here. In the post, I asked for 3 things. And in the comments, when was that? A week later, I said all 3 things were fulfilled. Thank you, God. Thank you, partners. You can talk about fun little interactions you have. Here's one where I was sitting with the girl in the cafeteria, and she said, Andrew, I met a Spanish boy, and we kissed yesterday. I said, oh, what's his name? She said, Juan. I said, do you think he's the one for you? And she didn't react. Or an eccentric 19-year-old girl who just kind of says stuff, and she's vulgar and wild. And you can share quotes of what kids say. This girl said, anyways, I was stalking your Instagram photos, and you need to stop saying fam because it's giving me anxiety. You trying to act like a teen is half the root cause of my anxiety. Also, your wife is so pretty. Oh my God, slay, Jen, slay. That is a super rapid run through of some ideas I had for sharing in digital storytelling. I realize we're at 12:46 Pacific, and that's my allotted time. So maybe we should run through some questions now. Unmute Naomi. Sorry if I flew through some of those things. The presentation will be all yours. You could flip through or never again. Whatever you want to do, we're here for you. So Naomi, do you want to come back on and we can do questions?
Sure. I'm scrolling back through the chat, and you've answered some of them. That's great. What fonts do you recommend?
Oh, great question. I actually don't remember what they're called. I think I use Cambria, which is like an Apple font sometimes. But maybe I'll look into that and I'll add it to the email when we send this presentation.
Awesome, thank you. Well, that was my questions. There you go.
Okay.
Daryl was wondering about whether this applies to both print and email newsletters. Yeah, so that was a question. Do you use email newsletters? You use Facebook as a digital communication. Do you send out your newsletters through email?
So I do have about 15 people who, for whatever reason, don't want my printed letter, or sorry, don't want to be in my Facebook group or don't have Facebook. And so when I write one of those Facebook posts, I will write an email version of it and send that to a small group of maybe 15 email only people so they get it too. I've seen others use some of the concepts I've laid out in MailChimp. That seems to work well for a lot of people. They can track opens, which is very powerful to know if it's actually working.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And how do you organize yourself to get compelling photos like this? Mark is wondering. And I wonder the same thing.
I think it's not always possible because we're a small, humble, grassroots office, aren't we? We don't have photographers and videographers following us around. But if you can have one person in your community volunteer to maybe follow the team around for an afternoon, or if you're lucky enough to have one person on your team who owns a proper camera, or if you can just be conscientious to snap high quality enough iPhone photos when you're in opportune times, build a little archive for yourself. Try to keep it in the back of your mind at all times that I'm going to need quotes. I'm going to need photos. Let's try to build it up. I think it's really tough, and I know it's not always possible.
How often do you send your newsletters? You answered that when you send it every 2 months, right?
Yeah, I would say every 1 to 2 months or whatever your supervisor tells you to do.
That's true. Yes, always supervisors. And how many pages are your newsletters? You have one major story, but then you might have photos or snapshots.
Yeah, it's always one piece of paper. It's either one-sided or two-sided, depending on how much good stuff I've got. If I've only got good stuff for one side, I'll do one side and I won't feel bad about it. If I've got lots to say, or it's been a while since I've last reached out to my partners, I might do two sides.
Okay.
So I use enough space to tell the story.
Great. Joshua Fast asked, do you have any templates we could use?
I think so, actually. Maybe I will include that as well. I'm going to write this down in an email to you guys. Templates and fonts.
Fabulous. All right. No, I just asked about email newsletters. So my question was about admin staff. Finding those stories and photos to complement the newsletters that go out. Do you have any ideas, or can you give examples of admin staff you've helped coach through that?
It's tough. I mean, I don't even know what to say for that. I think that has to be an ongoing discussion. I don't know. I'm coming at it very firsthand. I'm coming at it from the field, and it's all from my own biased position. I think that's a really tough one. I think in some situations, the marketing department can be organized and engaged enough that those stories of youth from all the different regions can be shared at central office, and those can be shared maybe by the admin staff. It's a tough one, though.
Yeah, so sort of drawing the line between we couldn't do this without the admin staff, and so that the admin are able to share those stories as part of their story.
Totally, and maybe you could have your field workers write a letter on behalf of the field staff every now and then saying, because this office staff has been so excellent for me and saved me all this time and trouble, I can do this work.
That's great. We may have lost you on audio, but I'll ask the next question. Is there ever a need for us to use multiple fonts in a newsletter? I think we're still
waiting for.
Oh, I think you're back.
No, it's me.
I think I'm back. Yeah, so I think you can use two. I wouldn't use more than two fonts.
No more than two. Okay.
It starts to look a little muddled. Yeah.
If you have more videos than pictures, what do you think of emailing videos?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think short videos are the best. I think it's unlikely many partners will watch a long one. So if you have a really tight video under 30 seconds and you tease it with a header and a short description, people might open it.
Yeah, so keep it short.
Keep it short and tell people what it is so that they're drawn in to actually click on it, because people are professional at ignoring stuff.
Do you include a donation sheet or a pledge card in your mailings? with
I
return
do. I
envelopes?
try to include it every time because
Mm.
you never know when someone's going to find that the easiest form. Even though I firmly believe the website's so much quicker and easier and more efficient, you
Yeah,
never know when someone's in the mood to just write a check or write on the deposit slip and send it back.
yeah, yeah.
And if the odd person says, which this will happen, why are you sending me this deposit form? I already give to you monthly. Well, I'll take you off
Mhm.
my list for deposit forms, no problem.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. A comment from Amber. Admin are part of everyone's story. So that's a good reminder that all of the frontline staff out there with the youth, it's all interconnected. So the admin could be using some of those stories.
Absolutely.
So that's it for our questions on my end. Daryl,
I was
you're
just
going
going
to
to say,
join us?
if I was in a chapter admin role, I think one of the things I'd be doing is looking for some of the dynamic stuff that staff are doing and actually approaching them and saying, can you help me with this? Can you share this story and how what we do here in the office affects what you do?
Absolutely. And as much as you can use we, like our team, so our field workers, our admin, our management team, we are all working together to be able to get into this school, to do this work, to meet this youth, to hopefully change their life. So it really is a we thing. And I guess as I think about it more and I think about Amber's comment, who is bang on that admin are part of everyone's story, I think as much as you can use we in the letter. So maybe you're not the one in the school, but we as a team are impacting these youth. Maybe there's a way to say that more clearly than I'm saying it, but I'm with
No,
you.
that's great.
This is a team effort.
We had another question
Tiani
come
says,
through.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
you think it's a good idea to have a header every time with a photo of your own face? Wait, do you think it's a good idea to have a header you use every time with a photo of your own face, or better to use different photos each time? So kind of like a template. I'm not sure, Tiani. I think either would be fine. A consistent template would be cool. Um, it reminds the reader that this is your story. I remember this layout from last letter. It's a consistent arc of your story. Or if you find something cool you want to put in the next letter that doesn't fit the last letter, make something new. I think there's freedom in it. I think the most important thing is I want to see your face, Tiani. I want to see your face, Tiani. And if you have a consistent header that you love, great. I think if the header is not really good, it just wastes space, so don't do it. But make it really good if you do.
Awesome. Well, we're at 4 minutes to the hour, whichever hour you're at. And this has been such a helpful webinar for me. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. And I know that there are people who put in the chat how helpful it was. I am one of the momentum coaches, and so is Daryl. And it was Sue suggested we should make it obligatory for all momentum participants, all people who join staff to take this webinar. So it is now part of our repertoire, so thank you. And is there anything, we will be having webinars coming up. If you have ideas for webinars, please give feedback. This will go out to you in an email. Andrew's going to add a couple of his own comments, templates and font ideas, etc., as well as this recording. If you have any other questions, feel free to email Daryl or I or Andrew. You see his emails right up there on the screen for you to see.
Well, thank you guys. And I guess my closing words would be, we do such good work. Come on, we know this. We do such good work from the admin to the field staff to the management. And so let's justify it with good, engaging partner communication.